This happened when I was a senior in high school. I am 24 now. To paint the picture, know that my parents sleep in different rooms. My father sleeps in the den on the couch. Seems strange, but he's got severe back problems. And my mother sleeps in the bedroom, the next room over, and the door to our backyard is in my mother's room. Also, our dog will sleep in the den most nights and needs to be let out for bathroom breaks in the middle of the night. So one night my mother was woken up from the alarm being set off in our house. She stood up out of bed and saw my dad standing at door to the backyard, so she assumed he just forgot to turn the alarm off before letting the dog out. Then she ran up to the front door of the house to turn off the alarm, and on the way back to bed, my dad walked out of his room and asked what was going on. My mother explains that she was just turning off the alarm that he had set off. Then he reveals that he never got up out of bed. They walk back into her room and the door to the backyard is still open, but the man is gone. Later I wake up when police show up to the house and was filled in on what happened. Last summer, my friend and I decided to go camping in a remote area of the Appalachian Mountains. We were excited to get away from the city and spend a weekend in nature. We found a secluded spot, set up our tent, and spent the day hiking and exploring. As night fell, we built a fire and settled in, enjoying the sounds of the forest. Around midnight, we decided to turn in. My friend quickly fell asleep, but I lay awake, listening to the crackling of the fire and the rustling of leaves. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind, but it grew louder and more distinct. It sounded like someone was saying my name. I sat up, peering into the darkness beyond the fire's light. That's when I saw it, a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the clearing. I tried to wake my friend, but he wouldn't budge. The figure moved closer, and I could see it was tall and thin, with long, spindly limbs. Its face was obscured, but I could feel its eyes on me. Panic set in. I grabbed a flashlight and shone it toward the figure, but it disappeared. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, clutching the flashlight. At dawn, I finally managed to rouse my friend and told him what happened. He laughed it off, saying I must have imagined it. We packed up and left, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. A few days later, I did some research and found out that the area we camped in has a history of strange occurrences. Local legends speak of a shadowy figure that appears at night, calling out to people, luring them into the woods. Those who follow are never seen again. I don't know what I saw that night, but I haven't been camping since, and for the very first time I've experienced sleep paralysis, which leads me to my next story. Like for it, I've heard many other encounters, but do you guys think it was a skinwalker and skinwalkers are real? If not, then what on God's green earth did I encounter? LMK. The night Emily moved into her new apartment, she found an old, dusty mirror in the attic. Intrigued, she cleaned it and hung it on her bedroom wall. That night, she woke up to a faint tapping sound. Groggy, she glanced around but saw nothing unusual. The tapping continued for several nights, always at the same time, 3 a.m. Annoyed and curious, Emily decided to stay up and watch the mirror. At precisely 3 a.m., the mirror fogged up from the inside, and a handprint appeared, pressing against the glass. Frozen with fear, she watched as words began to form in the condensation. "Help me." The handprint slowly slid down, leaving streaks of red. Emily summoned the courage to touch the mirror, and her fingers passed through it like water. She was pulled inside, trapped in a cold, dark space. From inside the mirror, she could see her bedroom. Another woman was moving in, finding the same dusty mirror in the attic. And the cycle began again. Last winter, I experienced sleep paralysis for the first time. It was the most terrifying night of my life. I had been under a lot of stress at work, and my sleep schedule was all over the place. One night, I finally crashed, hoping for a few hours of deep rest. But instead, I found myself trapped in my own body. I woke up in the middle of the night, completely unable to move. My eyes were open, and I could see my bedroom, dimly lit by the streetlight outside. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just a bad dream, but then I saw something in the corner of the room. A shadowy figure was standing there, barely visible in the darkness. It was tall and unnaturally thin, with elongated limbs and a head that seemed too large for its body. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My heart was pounding, and I could feel the sweat dripping down my face. The figure began to move, gliding silently towards my bed. It felt like an eternity as it crept closer and closer. I could see its eyes now, deep, hollow pits that seemed to suck in all the light around them. I wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't. I was forced to watch as it leaned over me. It reached out with one long, bony hand and placed it on my chest. The pressure was unbearable, like a weight pressing down on my ribcage. I couldn't breathe. The figure's face was inches from mine, and I could feel its cold breath on my skin. Then, it spoke. Its voice was a low, guttural whisper that seemed to echo inside my head. "You can't move. You can't scream. You are mine." Panic surged through me, and I fought with all my might to break free. Suddenly, the pressure lifted, and I could move again. I bolted upright, gasping for air. The figure was gone, and my room was silent. It was as if nothing had happened, but I knew it wasn't just a nightmare. I spent the rest of the night sitting up, too afraid to go back to sleep. The next morning, I researched sleep paralysis and found that many people have reported seeing similar shadowy figures during their episodes. Some believe these entities are malevolent spirits that feed on fear. I've had a few more episodes of sleep paralysis since that night, but I haven't seen the shadowy figure again. Still, every time it happens, I dread the possibility that it might return. I don't know what it was or what it wanted, but I hope I never have to find out.